Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It is Friday, January 16th. We're still in the winter. Star Trek is out. Star Trek Starfleet Academy. The last time we talked about a Star Trek show, I think it was Strangers or something like that.
Strange New World?
Strange New World. And then before that, we skipped Discovery, but we did, not Clone Wars.
Lower Decks.
Lower Decks. Thank you. You got a better memory than I do. Out of all the Star Trek characters, there's a billion different species, right? But out of the main ones, human, Vulcan, Klingon, or just AI, what would you want to be?
Well, I think that the humans are the coolest. In fact, I even remember dressing up as Captain Kirk for like my freshman year Halloween costume.
It's such a short lifespan, though. They're like every other race that they introduce has like 400 years. Or even the augmented humans, like Khan. Khan was an augmented human.
Yeah.
And he lived way longer. They're stronger. It's like all these other species have different things that, like the Vulcans, they have the mind meld. They have that like knockout punch thing. Klingons, they look ugly as heck, but they're like super quick at regenerating themselves.
They also seem super smart.
They're tough. Yeah, they're smart. And then AI, of course. Did you know that who plays the main bad guy in this?
Paul Giamatti?
Paul Giamatti. He is actually only half Klingon.
Oh, I didn't know
Us is
that.
only half Klingon. But yeah, and then AI, I think I would go with the AI because of it being able to last forever.
Right.
And it
Well,
still seems to keep its own personality.
I mean, it would, I think, be the best for like problem solving.
So out of those, which one were you choosing?
I'm still picking the human because I think that, and I'm only basing that off of the 3 Star Trek movies that came out in like 2009. So all 3 in theaters. And again, I think Chris Pine as Captain Kirk was my favorite. So like if I could pick a human from that fleet, it would
But
probably
he's
be
dead
that.
now, right?
Not in the Star Trek movies, no.
Well, I mean, he died. This takes place in the 32nd century. He's not still alive.
Well, they don't mention Captain Kirk. This isn't like a Legend of Korra situation where they mention Captain Kirk in Starfleet Academy.
Oh, it's very much a Legend of Korra situation because they are constantly throwing in references that you probably didn't understand because you didn't see Voyager or Star Trek New Generation or Next Generation.
Interesting because I know that the last film for Star Trek came out in 2016, Star Trek Beyond. But I don't think that like the craze of Star Trek or kind of the renewed interest in Star Trek really happened until Discovery, despite the mixed reviews it had back in like 2017.
The thing about Star Trek now, though, is that with the Skydance merger, they scrapped the idea of any sort of return of Pine and Quinto.
And Hemsworth.
And instead, they're doing like a Ryan Reynolds, like Mayday movie, where him and the guy who did, or the people who did Dungeons and Dragons, that movie, they're teaming up to do something in the Star Trek world.
So Ryan Reynolds is going to be in the Star Trek world. You know, it's always the strangest names. I remember Quentin Tarantino for the longest time. I think even in the late like 2010s was even still trying to make that Star Trek film he's wanted to make for like decades now.
Yeah, last year, 2025, we only did 2 space sci-fis. Do you know what they are, just off the top of your head?
I would imagine one was Star Wars.
Alien. There was no Star Wars. And then Murderbot. And so those were those 2. And out of what this show reminds me of more is it's about the Academy, right?
Yes.
So Gen V, Hogwarts, Percy Jackson, The Institute, those are shows about kids. But the way that this is marketed, it feels like they're playing it cute because they're also going with like, oh, Holly Hunter's in this. And again, the bad guy's name.
Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti's in it. And we're going to be returning a lot of people from other shows.
It feels like I know that like comparing Star Trek and Star Wars, that's probably going to get people pretty annoyed.
Yeah, just don't do that. Let's skip over that point.
Well, it's just that Star Wars, the Clone Wars, I mean, I know that focused a lot on how stormtroopers became stormtroopers. And here it feels like they're doing the same thing on like how people became pilots or something.
I think it's more like they're recovering because obviously they changed something in Discovery. It's called the burn. You probably heard it a few times.
They referenced it so much in the first 2 episodes.
Big cataclysmic event where like just imagine everything goes kablooey and the Federation breaks up, which is like the main government of everywhere. And now they're like everyone went to war for a while. And so obviously the Academy was transitioned into like a war academy. So there's like a college of war. And now you're going to have these people who are diplomats trying to recreate the Academy, while at the same time, there's also the war school, and they're going to be sort of rivals. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
But even though you've mentioned all those like shows before, I would actually compare this mostly to The Breakfast Club. And
Hey, okay.
I was going to ask you if you could name maybe not the names of the characters, but kind of the archetypes that the Breakfast Club has because they're
Well,
the
you have the cool
same.
guy who, like, kinda just slacks off, but, like, he's too cool for school.
I had him listed as the ringleader, but yeah, that's Caleb, Mir, and here.
Then you have the jock.
Yeah, and then the jock I would say was kinda like the bully in this show, Darum Raimi. He's, Keanan, and he's kinda like Mystique. He has Mystique's power where he, like, can shift into a different, like, almost alien type, form, and he's the only person that's actually able to breathe in space. So they send him out, side the ship in the first episode.
They have, like, a changeling? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. And then there's the it girl.
The it girl, yeah, I would say that's Genesis. She's the daughter of an admiral in this episode, but also I feel like she's supposed to be there may be a love triangle. In fact, that's where I thought that it was going to go with Caleb and Darum, but it seems like Caleb's going to be more interested in a girl he meets in his second episode called Tarima. But yes, there was the it girl, and then who else?
Oh, yeah, and then the goth, like, I guess loner.
Yeah, and the goth loner I didn't really have as anyone.
That's fair. Do you concentrate more on the kids in the first episode, or is it more about Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti?
Yeah, I thought that it was going to be because the first episode is where you focus more on the
75
kids.
minutes.
I thought that it was going to be like a Guardians of the Galaxy situation where we were going to continually each episode see them kind of work together. In fact, that was probably my favorite part of the first episode, but actually that's not what happens in the second episode. In fact, I don't really know what they're going to be doing because we really only get a good sense of the group in the first episode.
Right. The pilot is the thing that's supposed to set everything up. So
Right.
I can understand why they treated it more like a movie. Holly Hunter described it as winning the lottery. And Paul Giamatti, he was like pushing to be in this series. They offered him a guest role, and he said, "No, I want to be the major villain." And he said he was happy as a pig in shit. And it's like, no, that's all. That expression gets to me because it's like pigs don't like shit. Pigs like to root around for food
Maybe
and
had you
stuff.
said mud? Because pigs like mud.
They like. I think pigs like to be clean. I think they're smart enough. They like being clean. I think that's a stereotype.
Holly Hunter, though, for Nala Ake, I actually had her listed
Hockey.
as the principal in the Breakfast Club because she's maybe not as hardcore, but she is the one
You think
that's
it's the
kind of.
principle that John Hughes has like
Well,
hanging
I'm saying
around?
she's the recruiter in this show, and I'm saying she's more giving the orders. So
Hmm.
that's
I would say that Holly, like I hear her voice and it's Mrs. Incredible, which is the person who plays Caleb. He said the same thing when they did interviews with him. Academy shows this isn't like the first time that they've been thrown out there. In 1968, they actually wanted to do something with the original cast where they had like a Spock and Kirk prequel.
oh,
Um,
they were thinking about getting like Leonard Nimoy and
well, I think they probably would have shown up at some point,
William
but
Shatner. Yeah.
it was just dumb. It was like Monsters University, you know?
Yes. Right.
They would just be headed to school together. Gene Roddenberry, yeah. And so kind of what we see in 2009, because they do show a little bit of the Academy, but Kirk has always got that like smug attitude problem, right?
Yeah, no, and I remember that was the first time I was introduced to Star Trek in 2009, and I didn't remember what I thought about it at the time until like a year later. I was kind of going through a journal that I had kept, and I had listed it as my favorite movie of 2009. Star Trek Into Darkness, I remember I really liked the sequel to that. I saw it 2 times in theaters. It was actually a graduation gift once I graduated 8th grade, and then even when I went on to digital, I remember I showed it to my dad. And so I think that was my favorite film of 2013 as well. So both the first two were my favorite films of that year. And then Star Trek Beyond, I also saw in theaters. I remember that I think was my least favorite of the trilogy because I felt like it was more like a filler movie where it kind of was just like an episode where they're all stranded in different parts of this planet until they all have to come
Right.
together and defeat
When
the
I was
villain.
coming up with like what would you rather be, I was thinking about adding some of those kind of like strange species, and I think the people of that planet had like their own name. I'm glad that you gave like a little breakdown, that's basically showing that you are not a huge Trekkie. Like you know
No.
the 3 films, but that's about it.
Yes.
And then same for me. I know even less of the films because I may or may not have seen them.
I don't think you saw the last one.
Yeah, I don't even remember if I saw the last one. But what they keep on preaching with this show is that it's supposed to be sort of a reinvention for new fans, for old
Mhm.
fans. And it kind of, to me, reminded me, honestly, of like Doctor Who meets Lower Decks. Because I did see
Interesting.
a few Lower Decks episodes, but like, do you prefer the dark Star Trek world like type of
I do.
storylines,
Yeah.
or do you prefer like the lighthearted ones?
Normally, and so here I know that this is supposed to kind of be more wholesome than
Right.
some of the other series.
However, like they've also compared it to like a CW version of it. And I know in the second episode they do lean into more CW themes, but they had like a version of this show that was after the 1968 one that we talked about, Monsters University version. They had Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage, the people behind Gossip Girl, The OC. They were developing a younger viewing audience for a Starfleet Academy project in 2018. That one got scrapped. So this one is actually like the third version, and you got Alex Kurtzman, whose contract is due this year. He's been a very polarizing figure in the Star Trek universe because he's created all these different shows. Some of them have been successful. Some of them start off with like major problems. Like I remember when we were talking about Lower Decks, you said it had like a 5.6. Now it has like a 7.8.
I
The
was
Strange
shocked
New
to
Worlds,
see. I was shocked to see Strange New
Strange New Worlds
Worlds.
has like an 8.2.
That was crazy to me.
Picard, like all these different shows tend to like I guess they find their audience in the end.
Yeah.
However, you still have some haters out there who are like, this isn't enough close to what the original types of series, and also this feels too cheesy. I do feel like these are very cheesy programs.
Yes,
Like
very
I
much
don't
so.
think I could sit down and watch it, but if I had a kid that I was sharing that with, absolutely, you know.
Yeah.
And there were definitely moments in the pilot, from what I was seeing, that were shot like they had a budget here. They have actors
Oh no,
here,
they're like whenever they show the outside of space, it always looked really cool.
which is not expected for a TV show, especially with Star Trek.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, whenever and whenever some of the action hit, especially that action scene in, like, 45 minutes in when Paul Giamatti's character is attacking the ship, like, I mean, you definitely got kind of that Star Trek feel, and I was glad to see that the special effects really worked for this show because, like, I even know Marvel sometimes has a huge budget for their shows, and they can't even pull it off, i.e. Ironheart.
This is the seventh show under the Kurtzman umbrella, and then it's I think total like the 12th show in the canon for the entirety of everything. It takes place in the 32nd century, 120 years after the burn, and they're back in San Francisco. There's the Golden Gate Bridge.
They actually don't reach San Francisco until the end of the first episode.
Right after there's been like some sort of attack by Giamatti's Nuss's character,
Braca.
right?
Yeah.
Yes. So let's go into Caleb's backstory a bit because that's how they begin the whole thing, and that's where we see Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah, that's
Probably
his
my favorite
mom.
part of the entire show is I understand they're kind of doing the same thing that Abrams did in his film, where it's like if you're going to have a major character and they're going to lead the rest of the series, they have to have some childhood trauma.
And it's always a famous parent from the MCU, right?
Also, but like that shot of her pointing out into like that could be a poster. Like
Yeah.
I screenshot that. I'm gonna put it out on Twitter with our like little comment. But like that's a really cool shot.
Yeah, no, I did like the way that it started off because they were trying to show that even people who work with Nuss Braca, again, the villain of this season at least,
He's a pirate.
they weren't bad people themselves.
Not necessarily.
Right? Because
but it's kind of almost like in Star Lord, what was that name?
Guardians of the Galaxy, yes.
The blue guy, Merle from The Walking Dead.
I know who you're talking about, I forgot his name.
Yes, the one who had the whistle machine thing. Do you think that Nuss is actually going to be a good guy in the end?
No. I think that it's strange, and it may be getting a little bit into my cons, but for some reason, Paul Giamatti, he just cannot pull off the over-the-top villain. It seemed like he was channeling himself from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 when he was the Rhino. Like, that is how cartoonish his villain is.
He is cartoonish. Yeah, but I think he's doing that because he knows it's for a younger audience.
Yeah, but it also, for me, it was just like, this is supposed to be the intimidating villain that we're tracking for the rest
You're
of the
not
season.
the only one to have said that. Yes, but I do feel like in that first scene where it's him and Tatiana Maslany before he starts his cackling and stuff like that.
Right.
And there's the boy there, there's Caleb there.
Caleb Mir, yep, he's like, I want to say, how old, like 5 years old, did you say?
Well, it's 15 years later, right, when the Academy takes him. So, and he said he's 20. So that's
there
about,
you go, 5 years old.
That's about right. And Holly Hunter, this is like a pivotal moment in her own career because it changes whether or not she wants to kind of be the war captain anymore and how she becomes more of a diplomatic presence.
Right. She has no problem telling Nuss Braca that he's going to be put in jail. But even though it seemed like Caleb's mom and her had some type of agreement where it seemed like she maybe
she struck a plea deal,
maybe getting off scot-free or a reduced sentence, Holly Hunter still says no, you're going to be going to a rehabilitation camp. And then that is when Caleb's
I thought at
mom.
first they said they were just straight up putting her to death, and then I heard
Oh,
again
no, no,
that
no. It's rehabilitation. But Caleb's mom, the second she hears that, realized that Holly Hunter flipped the script and tries to tell Caleb, don't trust them. You can't, like, you're on your own, basically.
yeah, and he doesn't, because then he steals the pin and he makes his own escape, and
What do you think
we're
about that?
supposed to believe that for the next 15 years, she never catches him, or maybe we're supposed to take it that she keeps on finding him at certain points in his life, and then he breaks out of it,
When
and
Holly Hunter went back for the bear, I did think that I didn't think Caleb was going to go on the run like he did. So,
yeah, and it also seemed like he opened up the portal or whatever thing, and he just shot into space. Because if you've ever watched The Expanse, it would just vacuum tube him out there, and he would have been frozen and kind of like Leia in Star Wars
mhm.
in that one scene. Yeah, so she finds him after 15 years, offers him a chance to redeem
Well,
himself.
don't skip the part where it seemed like two other people. I couldn't tell if they were cops or if they had just caught him.
I
Were
think they were just
going
bounty hunters because they were listing off all the bad things about, like, it was a Pirates of the
right.
Caribbean moment where they were just giving all the stuff that he'd done
And that was probably
misdemeanors.
my favorite part of the episode is that fight scene he has with the two of them inside the spaceship.
Okay. I mean, it reminded me too much, I think, of The Acolyte, which is
Mm,
not a
fair.
very good
The
thing to be
4.3
compared to.
show on IMDb. Yeah.
Yeah, but they had a lot of decent fight scenes in it,
Right.
especially at the very beginning where they were trying to introduce people. So they get to this school, and I guess my question about 30 the generation 32, no, the 32nd century, is that you're supposed to believe that there's new species,
Right.
which there would be, and there's new technology. But in my mind, 1,000 years from a millennium from now, or from when Star Trek the original series took place, like, it feels like there'd be more changes.
So you think that they didn't do enough?
Like, there were some pretty cool ones. There was a haircut machine, like, where he just walked in and he instantly
Right.
got it. And
He
then
got the haircut
I
he didn't want
read
to.
that they, like, perfected the Scotty Beam Me Up technology where people can kind of teleport wherever they want.
Yeah, that was
The
cool.
AI is pretty incredible because it's able to walk and talk and think it's a human. But
Oh, Sam, though, I think was the worst character by far. I could already tell where her character was going from the first scene that we saw her in, where she's just like overly analytical. She can't read humans very well, and I just can't stand those characters.
oh, well, that's a lot of characters in Star Trek.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about Sam
I know,
specifically.
but, like, even Spock, that was his whole vibe too, is like Vulcans couldn't
I don't
really.
know. I guess I just didn't see her character as endearing as kind
Yeah,
of like
she's
Spock,
kind of
right?
in your face about it.
Yes,
And that was kind of what people complained about with Alien and the kids in that, where they were put into older bodies, and it would just be like, how naive do you have to be?
right.
After a while, it gets really, really grating. So you didn't like that. Were you a fan of the love triangle between, you said Caleb is probably going to end up with this other chick.
Yeah, Tarima.
Tarima's got an interesting set of abilities. She's like the daughter of someone famous. And she reminded me, because she's a telepath and like an empath, she's able to read people's mind and move things with her mind, but she takes something for it to stop her from going crazy. That's
Right.
very Jean Grey-ish.
It's kind of reminded me strangely of Adventure Time, because I think that like who Finn dates, the fire lady, she has a similar type of thing where it's like if she goes crazy, she can like set the whole place on fire.
Right, but it feels like that's the preface to leading to the ending of the
Oh,
like a
it's
season
the
finale.
Chekhov's gun. It's going to happen
Like,
at
she's
the end
either
of the
gonna try to
first season.
save everybody by stopping the pill,
Right.
or she's going to like, the villain's gonna manipulate her into doing that and use her to try to beat up
You
everybody.
don't have that line in there without it happening this season. I definitely agree with
Yeah,
you
what
on
was the
that.
line? Something like, "I can't take it without getting people hurt,"
Yeah.
right? There's plenty of lens flare, so J.J. Abrams, even though he's not there, he's still there.
He's there in spirit.
So much music,
Yeah, I thought that the music worked really well for the show. Again, when it comes to like
constant horns in opera, though.
and when it comes to the aesthetic of Star Trek, with all the suits and the special effects and everything, that I thought the show definitely had that. And I again, my favorite set was probably in the command deck where Holly Hunter is when she's commanding the ship in that first episode.
So the set is like a mega set. It's one of the biggest ones in the world. I think it might be the biggest one in the US, and it's like almost as big as a football field, and they have the auditorium in there, and it really does look impressive when they're walking around. get rid of a few of those lens flares and just have those huge setups, like with the TVs in the background and just the pixelation of everybody. There was always something happening and always some sort of CG model of like a computer droid in the background, which was really cool.
I didn't know that the set was actually that big a deal where it was that big, but I can definitely
Ginormous.
understand.
Like I think it's even been nicknamed like the Star Trek set or something, or the mega set, or mega stage. It says here, and then the ship itself is, I think, part of that. The USS Athena. Athena is the goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's a teaching ship for the Academy, I wonder if it was also a teaching ship for the College of War or whatever, because it feels like it would fit into both.
Right. And then
Is that the one that it doesn't get destroyed in the first episode, but it definitely gets
No,
like
it
taken over?
it gets taken over by Nas Braka, and you even see Nas Braka's ship, which is very much Star Wars, where it's all black and I think some
Right.
green
I
in
think
there.
it's Nuss again.
And yeah, Nuss, he goes to Nala, and I think that he's trying to get a piece from the ship, but he's also, I think, trying to find Caleb's mother as well, which is a really interesting dynamic because you
Because
have
Caleb's also
Caleb
looking for
also
her.
doing it. It's very much like Shazam in that way, where throughout a majority, the main character there is trying to find his mom.
I wonder if they're gonna like age up Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah, because I imagine she's going to come back in the show because the whole thing is she was able to escape rehabilitation camp. In fact, that's the main reason why Caleb is there because Nala Ake and him came to an agreement.
Yes.
Aki, yeah.
So like it's weird with Aki. She's a lanthanite, which is only introduced in Strange New Worlds, which means basically she's human, but she doesn't age as fast. They could make Caleb into that too.
It makes sense why she doesn't really age in the 15 years that we saw her in.
Yeah. And again, that's like most of them. Even the AI had to explain it because the doctor, who I think the doctor's my favorite character. He's got the biggest sense of humor. He's starting the Glee Club, but
I mean,
like with the opera.
they pump him full of jokes, and I don't mean just like one-liners. Like I mean anything funny that happens, like him messing up or even singing in the second episode while that party's going on, they give it to him.
I think it's because like the delivery, he has that sense of humor that actually works well. I feel like a lot of the newbies, they haven't had a lot of acting experience before, and sometimes it can come off pretty stiff. And so like I was watching that with especially the kids and their scenes, and like,
I mean, I
watch.
was not a fan of how like the first scene with everyone, with Jaden, Genesis, Sam, and Darum, where Darum is kind of the bully and he's bullying Jaden.
It was so high school,
Yeah,
but it was like it was like TV high school. It wasn't real high school.
Yes, it felt very much like a Saved by the Bell, the college years. Star Trek, the college years. That's what that scene was.
Not like The Pit or something like that, where it's the teaching hospital.
Right, and it's like that for a long time, for like the first 45 minutes, which again, this 75-minute pilot, just in my view, was way too long.
There's that, but it also had Holly Hunter in charge of the ship, and we would see that interspliced, and I'd be like, oh, those are really cool shots. Like she does look like she's enjoying being a captain there.
I thought that the best part came with that last 30 minutes where, even though I wasn't a big fan of his character, Nuss ends up showing back up because that's when we got to see kind of everyone doing their own part. There was Cadet Master Lura Thok, and she ends up getting hurt, and so...
she's got some interesting makeup there, like that's got to be a long time in the sitting chair.
I don't know why, but for some reason, I was seeing kind of the Wicked Lady, like little bit.
I can see it. Did she bust out into song? I know someone did sing. Was it the
again,
doctor?
that was the doctor in the second episode.
Nice.
But yeah, no, that's when we get to see everyone kind of do their thing, because the thing about Jaden is he wants to be a medic, so he is trying to save Lura during this time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Darum, and Darum is a Keonan. That's where we see that he wants to go outside the ship to kind of assess the goo that Nuss brought along with him. You have Genesis, and she's trying to save Darum by the very end of it.
There's so many plots, so many characters.
Caleb is kind of taking the brunt of it because he needs to save the ship, and they're running this fake simulation to try and scare off Nuss.
He's able to do that because he's a tech genius, right?
Yes, right. It was a little bit like Lazarus. It almost reminded me of, with the amount of typing going on. And then they're able to save everyone by the very end of it. Nuss ends up running away, but he drops a clue, Goja V, which I think is one of the planets that the mom is at. and then they end up
One of the plans, they'd like split her up, like cut her body up.
No, I think that like he says in that's supposed to be a clue that they have to try and get to that planet because that's where the mom is.
So first episode feels like a Doctor Who adventure.
Right.
Second episode is a little bit more down to earth because they literally go to Earth. They're in San Francisco. The name of the episode is Beta Test. Why is it Beta Test?
Because Beta said is the place that they're trying to get to join the Federation. It was at a time part of the Federation, and then I think they didn't trust them anymore, and they left. So they
like I said, with the burn, everything got messed up. And the one thing that they keep saying is that these kids, they're the first generation after the burn. And I was like, but the burn was 120 years ago. It is the first generation with the school, but it's not like their parents or even well, I guess if everybody's super old, that they had that experience with the academy.
I know that Nala, because she says this at the end of the first episode of Caleb, lost her son during the burn. So I think that it's very much still in people's minds.
It's so weird because everybody's like great grandparent must still be alive for most of these species.
But yeah, almost. It seems like the Federation is trying to pull a like Ronald Reagan because they're trying to get the wall between them and Beta said like broken down, them to join the Federation again.
Despite the huge academy that they're building up, it does seem like there's only a set number of people. Like there's a lot of people in the show, but as far as the school goes, it's certainly not like 2,000 or even more. You'd think in space.
You can very much say that. It shows how kind of closely related they are because Caleb, he starts to fall a little bit for the president's daughter, Tarima Sadal.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Tarima. Again, she's the one who's like Jean Grey, and she decides to go into war. Like she wants to be.
She's going to be part of that college, yeah, because Caleb was thinking that they were going to be part of the same group, but then I guess
they were going to get married and have little babies.
He wasn't looking that far ahead in the second episode, but he was thinking that she was going to kind of be like near his dorm, and then she chose a different college to go to because we should mention because they do reach an agreement. I think that what Ake proposes is that they should put a Federation seat placed not in Paris where it was before, but in Beta Set, and then they agree to that, and Beta Set is now part of the Federation again.
But does she have like a grudge against the war people? She's like, no, you guys are taking it too like you are going after this.
No, okay, so what I believe is that the Federation is also kind of part military.
That's what I'm saying is like, is she kind of against that? Because her whole vibe since what was going on 15 years ago is I want to be fair, I want to be justice, I want peace. I don't want to be training kids to fight. That's even the doctor showed up in the first episode and he was like, whoa.
Yes,
I can sense your hormone levels, which would be terrible for a school.
Oh, well, that was very
Can you imagine
strange.
him just popping into rooms and being like, whoa, stop that. Yeah, anyways.
No, I think, though, that, like, she understands that it needs to happen. Like, Nez, she's not going to let that go. She actually wants to, like, capture him because he escapes at the end of the first episode. So I think Nuss, yes. So
yeah, okay.
I think that Nuss is like, that's kind of like what she's using her examples for. She knows that war needs to happen. She just doesn't want it to be the only thing they do.
Okay. Yeah, so we talked about basically all of the stuff surrounding the kids. As far as the kids' personalities, not including AI Sam, it is strange, and people have pointed this out. The vernacular, the slang, the just modern version, there's no way that language, that was one of the things where it's like tech changes, species change, but so does language and just the way they speak to one another. I don't think I'll ever be able to get over when I heard them being like, bruh, or chill, or messing with me, hanging with friends, membership fees.
It's also not just the like what they're saying, it's how they're saying it. Every single character is exposition filled, like it almost exposition drenched with the amount of things that they say per, like it's
this is who I am.
Yeah, this is who I am. This is why it matters. This is my backstory. This is why you should care for me. But it happens with like every single character.
That's more of a critic issue though, because it's like if you're a kid, you kind of expect that. You kind of need to know that in order to connect with them. My thing is more, I guess it is also, you wouldn't notice it as much as a kid, but for anybody who's after their teens would, or even in their teens, would just be like, that's a strange way. If you've ever seen the original series, that we went back to speaking like we do in
Yeah, it's
20.
just a continual cycle. We're probably where they are, like 2000, early 2000s right now.
I heard one reviewer refer to it as just like adults writing for kids, and it
Yes,
does
no, and
a little bit.
that is a complaint that I
The
would have as
quips, I
well.
think the writer for the Doctor's lines were corny enough but good enough where, like that they should keep. And they even in every interview was talking about how like Tawny Newsome, they got her from Lower Decks to come in and do writing on the show, and then you have Stephen Colbert doing like
Yes, I
voiceovers.
did see Stephen Colbert in the title sequence, and I wasn't sure who he played, but yeah, I think he plays like kind of the voice
Yeah,
over or
he's like
the
Miss Minutes.
right, exactly. And so I think that what I liked about the show was Caleb. I think that he's the most interesting character to follow, so I think it was smart
You
that they
do like
gave him
Caleb,
the
okay?
main character position. Like I said, probably my favorite scene with him was the action scene about 15 minutes in before he is recruited. And then mostly in the first episode, again, looks really cool. Looked like it was shot in space. I like the Guardians of the Galaxy aspect when all of them were having to do their part at the very end of the first episode to save the ship. And again, the Trek, it's classic Trek in terms of aesthetics with the colorful uniforms, futuristic sets, and it's a lot more wholesome. So if you like those shows, you're going
And
to
so
enjoy
many
it.
references that we can't tell you anything about.
That is
Like they
very
have like a hall of heroes, and it's like
starkly
good
true.
luck if you.
Starkly true, yes.
Yeah,
And
Voyager, Discovery, like I'm sure that all of them are represented.
however, though, with the cons, I felt like the 2 episodes were way
Con,
too
the
long.
cons.
The con, yeah,
Yes.
I didn't even catch that. But yes, no, the 2 episodes, the runtimes are longer than any of the J.J. Abrams films, and you feel it throughout the whole
Together.
entire thing. Yes,
Yes.
combined together. And then that combined with every character's dialogue being botched with exposition, every cliche character in the book, again, the bully, the best friend, the ringleader, all of that. Paul Giamatti being the villain and the way he plays it, I have to give this show a 5 out of 10.
Okay, so it's just mixed.
Yes.
That's kind of how the reception has been. There have been places that really like it. It seems like the fans of other series are way more accepting of it, while you do have some original like people who are, or people who just want a darker theme thing.
Mhm.
I don't like begrudge anybody who enjoys this type of show. It's just it feels a little bit too corny to me. And I do like Doctor Who in certain things because it's able to, but you do need to stick with Doctor Who through a lot before you get to one of those really, really good episodes. And so they might be the same way with this. So unless you have that sort of patience, I feel like then if you don't like it from the start, you should put it away.
And it was the same thing with the Orville too, right? Didn't the Orville season 1 start off just being like it was negative reviews, and then by the end of season 1, people were like, "Oh no, this is actually a pretty good show," right?
I will say the Orville is different, where Kurtzman is kind of like, I am in charge of, he's the James Gunn here. He's in charge of all of Star Trek, and he doesn't really care as much as I think Seth MacFarlane. Seth MacFarlane's baby was the Orville, and that was his one chance at making a serious slash funny sci-fi show. And so I think he put a lot more into trying to bring all his friends aboard it, and it was a lot more special to him than this show, which I'm not trying to bring anything out of this show. It's got some amazing people attached. A lot of the crew from Discovery came over to do it, but at the same time, like it's not without its flaws. And part of that is just because of the superfluous amount of Star Trek material that's out there. Yeah, so I'll be interested in seeing the Mayday film, where that goes. And if this show ends up with having like a couple 9 episodes on IMDb, then I might tune back in to check
I'm
those out.
interested to see that, yeah.
But yeah, overall, Collider liked it, AV Club liked it, Slasher liked it. And that's strange because I thought Slasher only reviewed horror things, but apparently they liked that, and they also liked Marty Supreme.
I love Marty Supreme.
No,
Marty
but I mean, it's
Supreme,
on
I
Slasher.
know. But
Okay.
Marty Supreme is like my favorite movie of the year.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.